I've heard a few different physicists talk about like I forget how they categorize it. It's like the stages of evolution and where we are in our current state. And
yeah, there's the stages, if you wanted, of a civilization. There's class 1, 2, 3, and we're in like 0.7. One is where you access all the resources of your planet for energy. So we're getting there. You know, we've used fossil fuels. We're using solar more. We use wind. You know, we use waves. So we're about 0.7. A category 2 is one that can harness the energy of the sun, all of the sun. So all the energy of the sun, not just the little part on Earth, but all of it.
How would that look on a practical bit? Help me wrap my head around that one.
Okay. The first person who entertained this notion was Freeman Dyson, a theoretical physicist. And he said, well, if a civilization were to construct a device that totally encased the star and absorbed all of that light energy and particles coming from the sun and could convert it into energy, then they would have unlimited energy to do anything they wanted. So it was then coined Dyson sphere, this object around the star. So he imagined it as a sphere centered on it. He realized right after he came up with the idea that the sphere will not be stable. And so what's going to happen, it's going to go crashing into the sun and things like this. So you have to, so more realistically is something like we have on Earth already. We have networks of satellites orbiting in what we're going some are in the geocentric orbits like your dish TV, but most of them are going to be in low Earth orbits. And so we have a network goes around. We have, Skylink from Musk. And so I think setting up large energy, basically solar arrays to capture energy and having them in orbit would be a more feasible way of constructing a Dyson sphere.
In orbit outside the sun and the Earth?
Probably outside our orbit
Okay.
or inside our orbit probably. Well, then we won't be outside our orbit. We're still inside of it.
Right.
Yeah. And that would be one more practical way of harnessing that energy.
And how would the energy be transferred wirelessly? How would that kind of work?
Probably microwaves right now. I mean, there have been proposals to do that now with satellites that are basically just big solar arrays. They absorb energy and they just beam it down to the Earth.
Oh, whoa.
Okay. Now
they're frying things on the way down.
Yeah, I'd hate to be a bird that
yeah, gets hit by one of those things.
Yeah. But if it's in geosynchronous orbit, that would mean it's over 1 point, and so that's a little better. But still, there's going to be like this no travel zone for any satellite or anything that would come down. So still trying to work that out, but it would have to be beamed through most likely microwaves.
So that would be a stage 2?
Yeah, that would be a stage 2 population. And then I'd like to add that I was excited this summer because a paper came out and they did data mining of stars with planets that have been discovered by, I think, both Kepler and TESS satellites. And so there's about 5,000. And then they looked at basically the thermal signature of the star, which would mean most stars emit more energy at shorter wavelengths when they're hotter. So they're called thermal radiation curves, and they're used in astronomy a lot. And so, but all these curves always, as you get to longer wavelengths, they taper down. Mm-hmm. But they found 53 stars initially that went back up, and that's an anomaly. It shouldn't do that. And they refined it further, and they were left with 7. And so they said, what could this be? And one of the suggestions was maybe it's a Dyson sphere.
Oh, wow. So there's
Something else, because that then absorbing energy, it would also be re-emitting some thermal energy at longer wavelengths, and a lot. And so that's why they thought they were seeing it. So I was quite excited because a few years ago, gosh, now it's got to be about 5 years ago, a student was looking at data from the Kepler satellite, and we were looking for exoplanets, and we found some anomalous signatures on it. So then a colleague of mine in Florida started analyzing it, and we concluded there were chunks, big chunks going around this binary system, actually, of two stars. So when I saw this paper on Dyson sphere, I sent it to her and I said, Michelle, maybe we found part of Dyson spheres going around there. She didn't comment back on that, but I'll be seeing her in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to push that issue because who knows? But so
that would mean there's another stage 2 civilization out there.
That would be it. So that's what's so exciting.
How far away is that?
The star we were looking at isn't that far. I think it's only about 1,000 light years. So relatively close. Yeah, relatively. So anyway, then stage 3 civilization is one that harnesses the energy of the entire galaxy. And that's just unfathomable. I mean, I don't know what you would do with all that energy.
Right.
I tell my students that at that state, the civilization should be able to probably transcend being physical, and second of all, be able to create matter at will, having devices that can take all that energy and create that. Also travel through space by creating wormholes and all these things we'd love to do, but we know we don't have enough energy.
When you say creating matter at will, would that mean creating any object whatsoever?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Essentially,
any object. Yeah. Okay. Going back to science fiction writers. One of my favorite movies as a kid was Forbidden Planet. And Forbidden Planet is the Tempest set in space. And I think it was in that movie that Robbie the robot was introduced. You know, that was a funny robot that would go danger.
Will Robinson.
Will Robinson was in there, but it was kind of introduced in that movie, which I think was 1955 or something. Anyway, there's humans go to investigate where a spaceship had crashed, and they find there's only one survivor, and this happened, maybe 20 years earlier, and one, his daughter now. And then, so he talks to them and says, well, it turns out, to cut to the real plot, that there was a civilization there called the Kral, and this guy, who was a physicist, was able to tap into their energy reserves, and they had devices where they could literally create matter at will, and that's what they were used to. And they showed some of their, I can't say machines, but devices to create energy underground. It's just like miles and miles as far as you can't even see the end of it going. And then they could harness all that energy like that. And the thing that happened, though, was the Kral had forgotten that they had evolved from lower creatures. And so there was not only the ego, there was the libido, which was kind of their ancient side. And so that got powered by these machines and ended up destroying them. Kind of like what could happen maybe with AI taking over and controlling robots and turning on us.
Right.
So it was not a robot, it was really part of themselves that turned on them.
That's definitely got more of a message there than deeper meaning than robots taking over.
Yeah. So I watch that movie every year because I just love it.
Do you think part of also, are there any other, so there's 3 stages?
Yeah, that was 3. Some people are putting a stage 4 now. I can't imagine.
What would be beyond that, right?
Well, you're going to cluster galaxies.
Right. As far as like being able to read and communicate telepathically, that would be stage 3 most likely as well. Just anything.
Yeah. Probably even stage 2.
Right.
I think stage 2. We're talking about the sun there's a lot of energy coming out of the sun. We just get such a little portion on Earth. So I think maybe even a stage 2 could do that.
Where consciousness itself would be removed from the physical plane, possibly as well.
Yeah. And that's
kind
what I think physicists and computer scientists are looking at, which scares me.
I read, speaking of consciousness, there was I don't know if you've read this article. Somebody used quantum mechanics as a scientist or quantum engineering to say that human consciousness, life and death is a fabrication. Are you familiar with this article?
Yeah, there's a lot like that. That's kind of, yeah. It's, I'm not a big fan of it. That's why I'm hesitating.
Yeah, I can tell your hesitancy. It's far-fetched, I guess you'd say, or where's your hesitancy?
I'll look at the sort of a aspect of it, and that is that some physicists say that time doesn't exist; it's all an illusion.
Right.
And I know what they're saying, but when the average person hears it, they think, "No, there's no time. This world's all an illusion." No, there's something more to time. And you know music. You know, we live in the present, but we have a memory of the past, and we also can project the future. So if you're listening to Bach, you can really just about anticipate what the next notes are going to be from what you've heard. And so even though you're in that present, you still have the memory of the past, and you can see that there's a future. And I think that to me says, nope, it's something's real.
Yeah, and concepts like that just are so hard to even wrap our heads around, just because it's just so beyond our capability of understanding. So,
on the other hand, things, the perception of time or the physical measurement of time, that can change, and that's a very real thing, especially the measurement of time, like time dilation and.
Yeah, for me, my sense of time, and I know this is the case for a lot of people as they get older, but my sense of time has completely felt like it's gone out of whack as I've gotten older. But also just recently, just in the last few years, it's felt like time just is going by. It's really hard for me to gauge sometimes, like if time's going by very fast or very slow. So I'm just like, well, was that yesterday or was that like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
maybe that's just me getting old.
No, I actually wonder, because I experience the same thing. Most of the time I think, oh, everything's going so fast. And I think that's because the older you are, the more memories you have. And so you have more to store. And, it's not like being in grade school just waiting for class to get over and nothing to do. You don't have many memories then. And so I think, or experiences, I should say, because you may not have memories of everything, but you've had so many experiences. But the times when it goes slow, which I experience too, that then really amazes me. But I always know it's usually when I'm deep into thought, either in my work or reading a book or something. And then I've literally been amazed where I feel, wow, I've been reading for 2 hours and it's been 20 minutes.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, it's just interesting that it's changed. That it can go back and forth now. And I wonder if COVID had something to do with that.
Yeah, I'm going to be having a medium on the podcast, and there's in the astrology field and mysticism field, and again, it's very foreign to me, so I have to do a lot more research. But she was saying something about this time period, us coming to the end of a certain period, having to do with every 27 years because of Saturn, ascending, saying that there is a direct shift in time and perception of time itself is changing. So I'm going to get more answers on that side of it, but it's interesting hearing it from your perspective as well. Guys, if you're liking the content, please chuck a like on the video, and also don't forget to subscribe. That really helps me with the algorithm to get this video viewed by more of you guys.